that's now come out that they were planning for years to do this, and some evidence has even shown they had intelligence operatives in southern Lebanon who were firing some of the rockets, and that Israelis were then firing chemical weapon rounds. Did you see any evidence of that?
Well, I absolutely saw evidence of white phosphorus being used, and then, of course, the no-brainer is the fact that Israel dropped over 1 million cluster bombs in just the last 72 hours of that conflict, where literally when the truce was on the table and we knew the deadline was coming, they dropped more cluster bombs in Lebanon than the U.S. did in Iraq in 1991.
And that's blowing little kids' legs off all day. And it's just the way that the Lebanese are then dehumanized. It's just out of control. Dahr Jamail, stay with us. Dahr Jamail has the new book out, The Will to Resist, Soldiers Who Refuse to Fight in Iraq and Afghanistan. Some would say, oh, that's anti-patriotic. Well, they're getting the military trained right now to take on the United States population. I mean, our government openly... The head of the Naval War College, Thomas Barnett, professor, gets up on C-SPAN and says they work for Wall Street and foreign banks. I mean, it's a big joke to these guys. They're not patriotic. They don't care about America. They care about the New World Order. And Pat Tillman saw him growing the poppies and gardening it and killing people and wrote letters home he was going to go public, and they murdered him. And that's now come out. And they'll murder anybody else with private lynch. Turned out she cowered in fear. A couple other soldiers fought off the Iraqis. They wanted to have a poster child for women to join, so they killed a bunch of her unit that survived. They'd kill them at their houses in Phoenix, kill them at their houses in Wyoming. I mean, these are killers, not to mention all the murder, the slaughter, the billions of dollars and pallets of cash given to the troops to corrupt them, the mercenaries. Dahr, I've talked to troops recently back from Iraq. They say it's just sewage everywhere, collapsing society, absolutely hellish. You've been there. Lancet says over 1 million dead Iraqis. What is the true state of Iraq?
Well, it's a catastrophic situation, and those aren't just my words. Those are the words of the World Health Organization, several UN reports, International Committee for the Red Cross has alluded to that fact, and certainly the Red Crescent Society there. Again, you know, the people are, the country's been completely destroyed, and they've been looted. Their resources are being privatized by the puppet government in direct cahoots, of course, with the U.S. government, and, you know, it's basically they're left in a situation where there's literally, according to the WHO, less than 1 out of 3 Iraqis now even have access to safe drinking water. Unemployment is completely through the roof, anywhere from 40 to 70% on any given month. And the average home in Baghdad has about 2 hours of electricity per day. So it's really, again, as I've talked with you on your show before, it's an unlivable situation, and it's as bad today as it was even a few years ago at the height of the bloodletting. And, you know, of course, it's getting less attention now in the corporate press, but, you know, the average life for the average Iraqi today is one of a matter of survival on a day-to-day basis.
So it's total siege, it's genocide, it's post-industrial eugenics world. Exactly what State Department Memorandum 200, penned by Kissinger in '73, said, using war, using famine to cull that population.
Well, there's certainly facts on the ground would back that up, because, you know, it is economic warfare, and I think it's really, you know, the most, you know, poverty would be, you know, the stark poverty there, where there was an Oxfam International report that came out a little while back that it said that 45% of Iraqis are living in abject poverty on less than $1 per day. Meanwhile, thanks to the shock doctrine economics of Paul Bremer, instituted in the Bremer Orders in the first year of the occupation, where they changed the economic laws of the country, they basically instituting an immediate depression across the entire country, and this is all extremely well documented, showing that, you know, and now we're looking at the after effects of that. There's been no improvement, no change, except for things to get worse. So the average Iraqi is actually in far, far worse economic condition today than they were even under the genocidal economic sanctions of 12 and a half years that left over 1 million dead in that country.
And we're now 18-plus years into the genocide, into the culling, with Saddam Hussein's CIA operative told to attack Iran, told to go ahead and go into Kuwait by U.S. Ambassador April Gillespie. And the latest numbers from Lancet, I know that most numbers I see are over 1 million. Dahr, you study this intensely. What's the real numbers on the amount of dead from this genocidal war in the last 6.5 years versus the last 18?
Well, the most current numbers for the current iteration of the U.S. doctrine in Iraq, which would be the Bush invasion and occupation starting in March 2003. So from March 2003 to today, there's two studies that have been done that give us the most updated figures. One with the Oxford Research Bureau out of Oxford, England, shows 1.2 million Iraqis have been killed. And then there's another group here in the U.S. called Just Foreign Policy, and they have an ongoing tabulation, and they now have it between 1.3 and 1.4 million, and that's just since 2003. And then when we include the sanctions, that's another million, and then when we include dead from the Iran-Iraq war, that's at least another million as well.
So this is approaching Pol Pot level killing.
Absolutely. We're well over 3 million at this point.
Yeah, that's what Pol Pot killed, 3 mil. They don't care about us either in America.
We're on the